morning, you are watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sanov, and let's see the top stories. European Union officials are working on a 17th package of sanctions against Russia. New Russian strikes hit Ukraine's Sumy as the city mourns the victims of previous deadly attack. US President Donald Trump says that Iran must give up dream of nuclear weapon. Meanwhile, next round of talks between the United States and Iran is scheduled for Saturday. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says work has begun on a 17th package on sanctions against Russia. It's expected to be presented next month. Speaking after a foreign ministers' meeting in Luxembourg, Kallas said pressure should be placed on Russia to end the violence and urged member states to deliver faster. She also said that 2/3 of the 5 billion euros needed to supply ammunition to Ukraine has already been secured. The ammunition plan is seen as the most achievable part of a larger 40 billion euros proposal. She has also called for more air defense system after Sunday's missile strike on Sumy, which killed more than 30 people. Russia has launched a fresh wave of strikes on the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy late Monday. It's just a day after a missile attack killed more than 30 people and injured more than 100, according to Ukrainian officials. Russia's defense ministry claims responsibility for Sunday's assault.
Lying in a hospital bed in Sumy lies 13-year-old Kyrylo Ilyashenko, who is hailed as a hero by Ukraine's interior minister. It's after he saved lives during one of the deadliest missile strikes in recent months that killed 35 people and injured more than 100, according to officials. Kyrylo and his mother told Ihor Klimenko they were on a crowded bus Sunday morning, heading to sports training, when a Russian ballistic missile struck near their vehicle. The explosion turned their ride into a scene of chaos and bloodshed.
It all happened so fast. The glass shattered into my face. I was covered in blood. I shouted, "Kiryusha, where are you?" We touched each other, but we couldn't see.
His mother says he forced open a damaged bus door with her help and began pulling survivors from the wreckage.
I first tried to open the door by myself, and then my mother helped me to open the door.
How many people were on the bus?
It was full. There were a lot of people.
Around 40?
Yes.
Moments after that missile struck, paramedic Artem Selyanin grabbed his medical kit and rushed to help the wounded. But on Monday, he was caught on the staircase of the residential building where he lives with his family during the second strike on Monday.
I was running from one wounded person to another. It was emotionally exhausting. And doing triage, deciding who needs help first, I was lost. I had to come back because I ran out of tourniquets. I ran out of thermal blankets. We used them to cover the dead. There were many dead and we had nothing else to use. I used every blanket in my backpack and medical kit.
The Ukrainian Air Force reported that a new wave of missiles and guided bombs hit Sumy within minutes of each other. Local authorities said there were no immediate reports of casualties. Russia's defense ministry claimed responsibility, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov alleged that Ukrainian officials were meeting Western counterparts in the town, though no evidence was provided. The US and European leaders swiftly condemned Sunday's attack. Ukrainian officials says the renewed attacks prove Russia is not serious about peace. The United Nations estimates that more than 12,000 civilians have been killed since Russia's full-scale invasion began in 2022. The latest assault on Sumy has once again drawn global attention to the human toll of a war now entering its fourth year.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he believes Iran is intentionally delaying a nuclear deal with the United States. He says Tehran must abandon any drive for a nuclear weapon or face a possible military strike on atomic facilities. However, the White House has described the talks as positive and constructive. The next meeting is scheduled for Saturday in Rome. Sources familiar with the discussions say this round will aim to establish a general framework for a possible agreement. The last direct negotiations between the two countries took place during former President Obama's term. Trump later withdrew the United States from the 2015 nuclear deal.
Let us never fear.
I want them to be a rich, great nation. The only thing is, one thing, simple. It's really simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. And they got to go fast because they're fairly close to having one. And they're not going to have one. And if we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us, I'm doing it for the world.
Earlier, my colleague Andy Mioch discussed the upcoming talks in Rome with former Pentagon intelligence analyst Michael Pregent. He believes that the United States should be thinking differently in handling Iran's demands for lifting sanctions.
Well, if I was advising the Trump administration, I would remind them that Europe remained in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Europe remained in the Iran deal while Iran was cheating, and at no time did Europe put sanctions on Iran. And at no time did Russia or China put sanctions on Iran for violating the JCPOA that they were still in. So there should be no guarantees for sanctions being lifted. And the first question to Iran would be, or the first demand should be, release all the hostages. Tell Hamas, your proxy, to release all the hostages before we even sit down to talk. Unfortunately, Witkoff is pretty easy. It's pretty naive. So Tehran believes they'll have a better chance once Witkoff gets to Europe and sits around a bunch of people that he believes he wants to impress, and Tehran will get all they want. That is dangerous, and the Trump administration needs to do something about it. They need to remove Witkoff and put Secretary Rubio in there. This is the job for the Secretary of State, not for a businessman who doesn't understand the Middle East, who doesn't understand Russia, and who doesn't understand the art of negotiating with adversaries.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that he's considering temporarily exempting the auto industry from previous tariffs. Trump says that automakers need time to relocate production from Canada, Mexico, and other countries to the United States. Manufacturers say that tariffs could hinder this goal. Trump's remarks suggest a potential shift in his tariff policy. Previous import taxes have raised concerns in financial markets. U.S. President Donald Trump also said Chinese-made smartphones and other electronics will not be exempt from tariffs, adding they are simply moving into a different levy bucket. This follows Friday's announcement that some of these products would be exempt of the tariffs of up to 145%. China has since called on Trump to completely cancel his tariffs regime. However, U.S. officials said on Sunday that products would be subject to a semiconductor tariff instead, with Trump expected to reveal more details later. Chinese President Xi Jinping called for stronger ties with Vietnam on trade and supply chains amid disruptions caused by United States tariffs. Xi kicked off his Southeast Asian tour in Hanoi, where dozens of agreements were signed. He's set to continue his trip this week by visiting Malaysia and Cambodia.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has begun a high-stakes diplomatic tour in Vietnam, aiming to secure new trade footholds amid mounting tariff tensions with the United States. Xi's arrival in Hanoi marks the first leg of a Southeast Asia trip that includes Malaysia and Cambodia, countries that, like China, are under growing pressure from Washington's protectionist trade stance. Beijing is now grappling with a 145% tariff hike from the US, while Vietnam is negotiating to reduce a looming 46% tariff on its own exports. With supply chains in flux, Xi is seeking deeper regional alliances, and Vietnam is key. On Monday, the two nations signed dozens of cooperation agreements covering production, supply chains, and rail infrastructure. While the deals reflect strategic alignment, financial specifics remain vague. Vietnam, a major export hub to the US, is walking a tightrope, tightening trade controls with China to avoid accusations of tariff circumvention, while also maintaining close economic ties with Beijing. Amid all this, China is pushing for greater acceptance of its domestic aircraft. Vietjet has signed a memorandum with China's COMAC to potentially lease C-909 planes, an effort to break into foreign markets. Despite these efforts to deepen ties, challenges persist. Vietnam has recently imposed anti-dumping duties, measures used to protect local industries from unfairly cheap imports on several Chinese steel products. It has also ended a tax waiver on low-value parcels to curb the flow of cheap Chinese goods. Xi's visits to Malaysia and Cambodia later this week will continue China's push to expand regional trade partnerships amid shifting global dynamics.
In Iraq, a sandstorm has severely disrupted daily life in the city of Najaf. More than 1,000 people have been reported to have been breathing problems, with hospitals reporting several hundred residents were hospitalized. Visibility was significantly reduced, particularly on the roads, causing major traffic problems, and the airport had to close. The orange glow was expected to dissipate by Tuesday morning, but authorities say more bad dusty weather is set for the next few days. A 5.2 magnitude earthquake was recorded in California's San Diego County on Monday. The quake happened at a depth of 13.4 kilometers just after 10 o'clock in the morning. Tremors were felt across San Diego as well as in Orange and Los Angeles counties. Authorities say there are no reports of injuries or damage. The USGS Shake Alert System sent out early warnings, and the National Weather Service confirmed there was no tsunami threat. American pop artist Katy Perry and 5 other women flew to the edge of space and back on a Blue Origin rocket, completing their first all-female crewed spaceflight in more than 60 years.
2, 1, ignition.
For 11 minutes, US singer Katy Perry was launched into space on Monday with 5 other women.
New Shepard has cleared the tower.
The first all-female crewed space mission since 1963 traveled to the edge of space and returned safely back to Earth to West Texas. They experienced a brief period of weightlessness before re-entering the atmosphere.
That's amazing.
The flight used Blue Origin's New Shepard launch vehicle, developed by the private aerospace company founded by Jeff Bezos. The mission was part of the company's commercial space tourism program. Perry sang "What a Wonderful World" as the capsule began its return to our planet. The singer described the experience as the most meaningful of her life after motherhood, saying she hoped to set an example of courage and self-worth.
Katie!
The moment, I mean, it is the highest high, and it is surrender to the unknown, trust, and this whole journey is not just about going to space. It's the training, it's the team, it's the whole thing. I couldn't recommend this experience more.
The group also included Lauren Sanchez, who is engaged to Bezos, former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe, scientist and activist Amanda Nguyen, film producer Kerry Ann Flynn, and CBS host Gayle King.
It's oddly quiet when you get up there. It's really quiet and peaceful. And you look down at the planet and you think, that's where we came from? And to me, it's such a reminder about how we need to do better, be better. Do better, be better human beings.
And what do you mean by that?
Processing. Well, it's so nasty and so vitriolic nowadays. And I mean, if everybody could experience that peace that we had up there and the kindness and what it takes to do what we did, all the people that it took to get us up there and get us back safely, I'll never, ever, ever forget it.
Blue Origin has not publicly disclosed the cost of tickets for such flights. However, its website says that a $150,000 refundable deposit is required to begin the booking process.
History, you know, we got to capture.
Deepening economic ties and facilitating trade, that was the main aim of the international conference on the leading think tanks of the Organization of Turkic States in Uzbekistan on Monday. The event in Tashkent was part of a broader push for regional economic integration. Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, became the center of strategic dialogue on Monday. Leading scholars, economists and policymakers from the Organization of Turkic States convened for a high-level conference themed Expanding Trade Potential among the countries of the OTS, Joint Research and Strategic Solutions. The event, organized by Uzbekistan's Center for Economic Research and Reforms in collaboration with the Organization of the Turkic State Secretariat, stems from an initiative proposed by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev during the 11th OTS summit in Bishkek last November. The primary goal of the conference is to enhance trade and economic cooperation among OTS countries through targeted research and actionable strategies. Discussions centered on key issues such as removing trade barriers, streamlining customs procedures, and developing digital trade platforms. The OTS Deputy Secretary General Merey Mukasyan highlighted the bloc's substantial collective market of 175 million people and its growing global influence. He said that major steps have already been taken to foster economic unity, including the establishment of the Union of Turkish Chambers of Commerce and Industry and the Turkish Investment Fund. He also unveiled plans for a new Turan Special Economic Zone to be created in Kazakhstan's Turkestan region, seen as a key part of the strategic Middle Corridor. It could transform the region into a vital transport and logistics hub. Throughout the day, participants delved into a range of pressing topics, from untapped trade opportunities and digital innovation to sustainable development, regional infrastructure, and the green economy. Experts also addressed pressing socio-demographic challenges facing the Turkic world. A major lithium mining and processing project is being launched in Kazakhstan by a German company. The total investment could reach up to $700 million, and it's of the EU's broader strategy to reduce reliance on critical raw materials from China. Fariza Kalimurzuna reports from Almaty.
Germany's HMS Big Bow AG, in partnership with Kazakhstan's Alatau Lithium and Create, the corporation is set to develop a major lithium mining and processing project in east part of Kazakhstan. Construction is stated to begin in 2026 at 2 key lithium deposits, part of a region that holds 7 sites, according to Kazakhstan's Ministry of Industry. The project represents an investment of up to $700 million, with $500 million already secured. Geological exploration is underway, and the companies have been granted 6-year exploration rights for 2 blocks. This marks the first time a German company has entered Kazakhstan's rare earth mining sector. HMS Bergbo holds a 51% stake in the joint venture following agreements reached during a high-level meeting with Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev last year. The project aligns with the European Union's Critical Raw Materials Act, which aims to reduce reliance on Chinese imports by 2030. In turn, Kazakhstan, home to 19 of the 34 rare earths critical to the European Union, is emerging as a key strategic partner. A recent €3 million European Union Central Asia cooperation deal underscores growing interest in the region. With global demand surging, lithium is now seen as a cornerstone of the digital and green economy, vital for electric vehicles, smartphones, and more. Fariza Kalimurzana, A News, in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Georgian President Mikhail Kavelashvili is set to make his first official visit abroad to neighboring Azerbaijan this week. Our Nini Nikolashvili brings more from Tbilisi.
Georgia and Azerbaijan are once again underlining their close strategic partnership as Georgian President Mikhail Kavelashvili makes his first official foreign trip to Baku on April 15-16. The trip, confirmed by Georgian Presidential Press Service, highlights the importance both countries place for regional cooperation. Kavelashvili's visit follows a familiar diplomatic pattern as earlier. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze also selected Baku for his first official trip after Georgia's October parliamentary elections. During the visit, both sides reaffirmed their commitment to peace, stability, and mutual respect. Georgia also expressed gratitude to Azerbaijan for his continued support of Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The visit of Avalashvili to Baku comes amid Georgia's broader efforts to maintain regional relevance, including its recent participation in Antalya Diplomatic Forum. There, Georgian Foreign Minister Maga Bochorashvili reaffirmed Tbilisi's commitment to regional peace, declaring that stable and secured South Caucasus remains a top strategic priority. Speaking at a high-level panel on regional cooperation, Bochorashvili stated that Georgia is uniquely positioned to facilitate dialogue and peace building in the region. She said both Armenia and Azerbaijan can count on Georgia to support meaningful dialogue. This is Nina Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, News.
Afghanistan is grappling with a growing urban crisis as nearly 80% of Kabul residents live in inadequate housing, vulnerable to climate extremes and lacking basic services, according to the United Nations. Our Tamim Bahis reports from Kabul.
Nearly 80% of Kabul's residents live in informal or inadequate housing, according to the UN Habitat, which has raised concerns about the heightened risks these communities face from extreme weather and climate-related disasters. In a statement posted on X, UN Habitat highlighted that over 40% of Afghanistan's urban population is concentrated in Kabul, a figure that underscores the capital's significant housing and infrastructure deficits. Many of Kabul's informal settlements lack essential services and resilient infrastructure, leaving residents increasingly exposed to the impacts of climate change. The agency called for urgent, targeted climate interventions and greater international support to protect vulnerable communities in Afghanistan's rapidly expanding urban centers. Meanwhile, Afghanistan is seeking ways to improve the livelihoods of its citizens. The country's Minister of Agriculture, Irrigation and Livestock recently met with Uzbekistan's Minister of Water and Energy to discuss cooperation on irrigation development, water resource management and climate change. Uzbekistan, which is home to one of the largest irrigation systems in Central Asia, pledged support for modernizing Afghanistan's irrigation infrastructure, particularly through drip and rainwater irrigation technologies. However, after more than 4 decades of conflict, the scale of Afghanistan's needs remains immense. Rebuilding its agriculture sector and ensuring climate resilience will require sustained international cooperation, long-term investment, and a stable environment to protect, to implement, and maintain essential infrastructures. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
Turkey has started a major restoration of Hagia Sophia's Grand Mosque iconic dome, one of the most significant repairs in the monument's recent history. The nearly 1,500-year-old Byzantine structure is rich in both Christian and Islamic heritage and remains open to visitors and worshippers during the works.
Hagia Sophia Mosque, standing in the heart of Istanbul, has long been a symbol for both the Muslim and Christian worlds. As a monument that has carried the weight of centuries, Hagia Sophia is now entering a major new phase in its long-running restoration, focusing on its iconic dome. The restoration is considered one of the most significant repair efforts since previous works on the 1,488-year-old structure. Experts say restoring Hagia Sophia is a complex and unpredictable task, but modern technology may open a new chapter in its preservation.
Hagia Sophia was of course destroyed by major disasters and also went through various restorations both in the Byzantine and Ottoman periods. Of course, we do not know the historical records of the very old ones very well, whether they were very comprehensive or not, but since it will be built in the best and most comprehensive way with the technology and methods currently used in the modern age, it probably opens an important page in the book.
Experts report that restoration work on other parts of Hagia Sophia has been ongoing for the past 10 years. The Hagia Sophia is expected to remain open to both worshippers and visitors during the restoration process, which adds complexity to the repairs. The reinforcement project will focus on structural weaknesses identified through earthquake simulations. Given the country's location along active fault lines, experts say the true condition of the structure will become clearer once the lead cover is removed. No official date has been set for the dome's completion due to potential weather and structural delays. Hagia Sophia, built as a Christian church in the 6th century under Emperor Justinian I, was converted into a mosque after the Ottoman conquest in 1453. In 1935, it became a museum under Atatürk, and in 1985, it was recognized as part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In 2020, it was reconverted into a mosque, while remaining open to visitors, reflecting its layered Christian and Islamic heritage.
We are done for now, but don't go far. Stay tuned for more updates and have a wonderful morning.